Alright everybody, welcome to Street City Studio. I'm John. Thanks for joining me here today. Today I wanted to do something a little more casual. I kind of just wanted to talk about the toys I like, the toys I grew up on. I kind of figure I'll do it chronologically here. Right? Talk about the toys that really got me into collecting. Right? And myself, I'm about 41 now, so I'm very much a child of the 80s. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and so I grew up on the same things other 80s kids did, right? G.I. Joe, Star Wars, He-Man. But I remember some of my first favorites were live action based figures, right? Some of the best figures we got back in the day were the live action based Turtles, the live action based Batman figures, and I don't know what it was, but compared to the cartoony Star Wars figures and the cartoony G.I. Joe figures of the time, it did something for me. I really liked that aesthetic of the live action translated to the figure. And I honestly, I don't think I ever went away. I don't think I ever stopped being fascinated with live action figures. And I really couldn't explain it beyond, that's what I'm into. That's what I like. But beyond that, you know, I got into G.I. Joes, even though they weren't quite as realistic looking in the details. But I did. I grew up on G.I. Joe, grew up on Star Wars. I used to love all those Star Wars figures, man. But as the years went by, other toy lines passed G.I. Joe and Star Wars, in my opinion. And one of the things that really got my attention was the Marvel Universe figures. Oh, there he goes. I think a lot of us, especially in 3 3/4 collecting, the Marvel Universe figures really gave us characters we wanted, gave us multiple versions in some cases, right? I can't even count. I probably have at least 4 or 5 different Wolverines, not to mention Laura Kinney X-23 Wolverine. Right. I don't know where it is right now, but I got the Showdown Wolverine as well. That's the problem, collecting so much without a lot of space. You gotta dig for it every time you want to pull it back out, if it's not on display already. But I was real big on the Marvel Universe lines. And so when the MCU dropped and started doing live action MCU based figures, that changed my life. That was what I wanted to collect. I thought that was it. I would fill out my MCU, and that would be my collection. But I think we all know how that went. That fell off kind of hard. But I was collecting Marvel live action. I was in love with the DC multiverse line, right? And for a long time, that was kind of what I collected. the Marvel live action, the DC live action, anything I could get my hands on. I didn't dig a lot of them out for the sake of this video, but when they started falling off, I kind of didn't know where to go from there. I started getting into Star Wars again. And that's kind of the last few years, right? We've gotten the Star Wars Vintage Collection line has been getting progressively better and better. Honestly, they should have been able to keep up with some of these figures that came out 10 years ago. But that's another story for another day. It's good to see them finally catching up. But when Marvel and DC stopped putting out stuff that I had interest in, I had to fill that void because I was buying a lot of figures at the time, and it kind of fell off to a point where I was buying nothing. And I considered getting out of collecting around that time when Marvel Universe and the DC multiverse stopped putting out figures. I didn't really know what to do about it. And so I just kind of forgot about it for a while until I started seeing other figures I liked. And that would be the vintage collection. And also little oddities here and there, like horror figures. Just little things that catch my attention. He's not even technically 3 3/4, but he perfectly scales, I think. But so anyways, as a kid, I never really got into the Jurassic Park figures. And I know that's a Hammond collection, but when they started making the Legacy collection, that's when Jurassic Park toys really caught my attention. Because I always liked the dinosaurs growing up, especially the ones with the removable bite marks and stuff, the battle damage dinosaurs. And I think they had that T-Rex where you squeezed his soft rubber neck. You'd squeeze his neck and his jaw would open. I always liked those, but I never much cared for the real stiff, cartoony-looking figures. But so when they started the Legacy collection, I was all in. Now, I'm not a completionist. I know a lot of you guys might be completionists with the lines you collect, but I really only need the figures I need, you know? If that makes sense. Here, let's pull this focus back here a little bit. See if we can't put some light on these guys. There we go. Right? And so between the Legacy collection and the Hammond collection, I'm pretty much all in at this point. Right? Let's pull that back here a little bit. She doesn't want to stand now, of course. I really don't say it enough, and I don't photograph her enough. Yarna Del Gargan here is one of my favorite figures. You can call me Jabba, because she's my favorite dancer. Reminds me of Mom. But I wanted to make some space for some of these dinosaurs, because just like the monsters, I think dinosaurs fall into that category, right? I love a good creature feature. And dinosaurs definitely fall into that category. Big fan of Quilliam. Big fan of the Pyroraptors. If I haven't said it already, I am a big fan of Rolling Tembo. Rolling Tembo is like my spirit animal. The only man in the whole franchise to go toe-to-toe with the T-Rex and win. Gotta love a Pachycephalosaurus. Now, back to some of these guys. Some of my favorite Star Wars figures. I just keep in these boxes so they don't get any spills or dust or part of the problem, I don't want to say problem, but is the soft goods. I love the soft goods, but then I worry so much about them collecting dust and stuff. It's easy to wipe some dust off the plastic, but trying to clean it out of the cloth is more frustration than any care for, I think, sometimes. But I would like to point out more recently, Marvel is getting back into 3 3/4 with these epic hero figures. And like I said, I'm not a completionist, so I'm not trying to get every one of them. She's not going to stand. She'll fall right over. You get the point. But I did want a couple of them. And I don't have all of them right here, but I did want to get all of the Guardians. And I did. I do. Again, I don't have all of them right here, but I did pick up all of the live-action Guardians figures, and I'm super happy to have them. It's about time, the third movie, and they finally made the figures. I shouldn't say that. I do have the Star-Lord from the first movie, or second movie. But that was the problem. Marvel was picking and choosing what movies they wanted to put toys out for. They should just make toys for the whole lot of them. That was the whole point of the franchise, right? Is that they could all play together. But they can't all play together if everyone's compartmentalized. Right? You're only making figures for the top actor in the movie or whatever. I don't want to play with just Star-Lord. I know it was a 2-pack. It was a Star-Lord and Yondu. But Yondu didn't even come with his arrow. You really need to give us the rest of the team. But I'm happy that they're finally getting back around to it with this Epic Heroes line. And the line's nice. I don't want to bash it, but I've heard people saying that the articulation is an upgrade, and I don't know who put that out there, because that's definitely not accurate. They don't have ankles. They don't have wrists. They're very nice for what they are. I'm glad that they have decent hip and shoulder articulation and decent elbow articulation. But it is definitely not an upgrade from what they were doing 10 years ago. I do like that blast effect. I'm a big fan of any kind of special effects that you can get with a figure. You can pop it off and give it to somebody else, or especially with the nature of what I do here with my photography, right? I can take that off and give it to a Superman or whoever, right? Let's do that right now. See? And that's the kind of bang for your buck that these guys should be giving back to show that they appreciate where we spend our money. Because I don't know about you guys, but I've spent a lot of money on toys. Enough so that, I might feel like I have some say-so once in a while, right? When they put out these unarticulated figures. And now I should reiterate, at this price point, I'm very happy with this level of articulation. But if it was at this price point, this Star Wars Vintage Collection, $20 to $30 a figure, no, I definitely would not be happy with that articulation. But, I mean, that's why there's a difference, right? But even if you look at Legacy Collection was around the same price per figure and around the same articulation style. No wrists, no elbows, right? But then you look at the Hammond collection for the same price. You're getting wrists and ankles, right? You can tip her toes. You can bend her wrists. Right? That makes such a big difference. Especially like my other video I just showed. I had to replace Roland's arms because he's a gun-wielding hunter that can't look down the barrel of his gun. He can't aim his gun. But, again, they didn't charge us an arm and a leg for that, so I was happy to do it. Well, what kind of toy lines are your favorite? I know I didn't include a few things. I'm really into, I don't see them right here, so I'm not going to go looking, but I'm really into Boss Fight Studios figures. I got a couple of their Knights of Accord. I've got their Wandering Mage. I'm trying Vandal. I just got that Barbarian they released. I think that was a Vandal too. Vandal Wandering Barbarian. I got this Cave Fairy. Looks like one of the gargoyles. I'm trying to remember which ones I got. Also, I know I mentioned it just recently already. One of my favorite lines is the water margin figure line from Flymia. They're probably not for everybody. I know a lot of people think they're scale too big, but they're supposed to be big fellas. They're supposed to be really big fellas. And even if you watch some of the movies or the live action show, it doesn't translate how big some of these guys are supposed to be. But I love it. I love water margin. Some honorable mentions maybe here. Some Hiya Toys has been doing some amazing things. At the moment, I really only have RoboCop and Judge Dredd by them. But I've been eyeballing those G.I. Joes. I'm not really interested in their Snake Eyes or their Storm Shadow. But pretty much everything else looked great. I'm real excited about that Firefly and that Flint specifically. But yeah, what toys are you guys into these days? What really gets you excited about collecting or taking pictures? I'd like to talk about it. I'd like to see what you guys are collecting. Hear what you think about my collecting. I appreciate you guys joining me today. Have a good day and keep playing with them toys.